Hello, this is Dominic from the Jack and Dom Radio Show, a weekly sports radio program, and although we broadcast on professional hardware, we do record our show mostly on my laptop, and sometimes I don't press record right when we start. Some shows will start right in the middle of a topic. Regardless, this show is a work of love and passion for sports with raw and transparent opinions between the two of us. So I hope you all enjoy. Hello, this is WPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. This is the Jack and Dom Radio Show. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing great. How was your weekend?
It was good, but it felt short, and I am exhausted on this Monday evening.
I'm assuming it had to do with Michigan basketball, which I know is something we're going to be definitely talking about today.
I mean, that didn't make my weekend feel short.
Okay.
I don't know. The weekend flew by. Nothing special happened. It just felt really, really quick.
Well, I know one of the things that I did this weekend was because every once in a while I go on Facebook Marketplace and, or like Craigslist, or something, places like that. And I'm trying to, this is a little off topic, but something a little bit of a conversation starter. Trying to get back into film photography because it was something I used to be part of when I was like a little kid, but it was with those like cheaper point and shoot cameras rather than the more expensive ones. So I found a SLR camera, not a DSLR camera, but just an SLR camera on Facebook Marketplace with the lenses, the case, and like all that stuff for $25.
Oh, all right.
When the camera itself retailed for $6.99 back when it was built in 1991. That's 4 years. The camera that I just got, which is a Minolta 7XI, I think that's what it's called, is 4 years older than me, and retailed for $6.99, and if you adjust for inflation, that's $1,600 and change.
Nice.
So definitely got a good deal on that, and I always encourage everyone to sometimes go out and look for good deals.
Absolutely.
But happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way.
I didn't really celebrate, but I accidentally wore green. So I avoided the classic pinch.
It's also easy for me because me being from Lansing and a Michigan State fan,
got everything green.
I have a lot of green stuff. So coming up here to a school that already has a lot of green. It's a slightly different shade of green, but still, it works out.
Exactly. I picked up a new hobby this week too, and I'll just go over it super.
Go right ahead.
And move on. I picked up Balatro. Have you heard of Balatro?
Say that. How do you pronounce?
Balatro.
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 What is that?
It is a really cool spin-off of poker.
Ooh.
On Steam, and I have been obsessing over it for the last 4 or 5 days. I've got 21 hours played, maybe 22 now in 5 days. So it's been a lot of fun. But speaking of,
that's interesting. Always encourage someone, everyone to try something new. On
a more somber note,
I know.
Not a great postseason performance again this year from both the men's and women's basketball teams.
We both lost. I think within the same day.
Right. Women's won in the first round, then
against Hillsdale
by Ashland pretty handedly in the second, and Michigan Tech gets their revenge and blows out NMU in round 1 on the men's side.
Let me full disclosure. I always forget. Remember, the opinions said on the show, I should always read this out. The opinions said in the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or university. That being said, my personal opinion, I do not like Hillsdale. So the fact that
beating them was good.
Them was good. So there we go.
But I think something that has to be discussed is this is the third straight year we've won the conference, either regular season or tournament, correct?
For the men's, yes.
And this is the third straight year that we've lost in the first round, correct? Or did we win one?
I think 2 years ago we won 2 games.
Okay. Why don't you check on that real quick?
Okay.
Because that'll change what I have to say. But I think no matter how you look at it, despite the fact that we were the lower seed, you had the momentum. You beat Tech on that buzzer beater in the tournament.
It's hard to beat a team.
It's hard to beat a team a second straight time, but I mean, Tech beat us 3 times, and very rarely do you lose 3 times to the same team.
Yeah.
So I just think with the coach that we have, who in my opinion is probably the best in the GLIAC, or at the very least second best, You've got a pretty solid team. Not great, no superstars, but a good team. Good, solid team. I really was expecting better. And I get it. Tech was a tough draw.
So I was correct. 2 years ago, when we won the tournament, when we won the Giliac tournament, we faced Hillsdale, beat Hillsdale, and then lost to McKendree.
Okay, so we won one 2 years ago. So that's one playoff win in the 3 years.
In that 3 year span, correct.
And just looking at the record of this team, they seem to be an abnormally good NMU team at 25-8.
But this was 3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years ago?
This was 3 years ago.
Okay, so then we haven't won one in the last 3 years, right?
2 years.
Okay, your math is confusing. Sure, we'll
yeah.
buy it. So
this is 2020. Yeah, I'm talking about 2022, 23
okay,
season.
so 2 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, so we've won one playoff game,
yep.
and the 3 straight years we've won either the GLIAC tournament or the GLIAC regular season, because I think 21-22 was a
COVID year.
Yes, and then before that, I don't think we won anything in 1920, did we?
No.
Okay.
But it was sort of competitive. That was
that's okay.
Matt Mackerzak's first year.
Right. So point being, we've won one playoff game in his time here. Which, do you think that this team, and maybe the GLIAC in general, because I know the GLIAC has not done great on the men's side in the tournament, other than beating each other. Do you think that either A, the GLIAC is a poor conference, or B, this team has just reached its ceiling and for whatever reason it doesn't do great in March Madness? An equivalent I might give you is like, I would say a team like Iowa basketball, when they had guys like Luka Garza and stuff. You know, they'd win a game here and there, they'd make the tournament, they'd won a Big Ten title in like 2019 or something, but just could never make that next step into true playoff contention. And don't get me wrong, we were a good team. I'm not saying we're mired in mediocrity. I'm not saying we're bad. We were a good team. But are we stuck at good and we just can't get to that great, that S tier that you always talk about?
Yeah.
Are we incapable of making a run in the tournament? Is there a reason for that? Is it the GLIAC is poor? Or do you think that give another year or two and Coach Matt is going to figure out our kryptonite and we're going to go, make a run in the tournament?
Well, I mean, if I look at that Macy ratings website that I sometimes occasionally go to, the number 8 team in the country is Lake Superior State. So
right.
Even an algorithm would probably tell me, I don't think that it's not necessarily because it's a weak conference. I mean, Ferris State a few years ago won the national championship. And then I think a few years before that, Grand Valley did. So it's not like teams from the GLIAC are incapable of going far.
So then what do we not have
so I think it's
that those teams did? That Tech has, that Lake State has, that Grand Valley has.
I think Michigan Tech this year has a special team. Now they have a really good coach. They have a really good set of players. But last year we put 98 on them last year at home. They were not happy about that.
Right. And
so it's not like they're, unbeatable, even though I will say Michigan Tech was a lot better than originally anticipated, especially after beating Green Bay. Which I want to put a little side note on that after I'm done about this. But yeah, I don't know. I love the strategic aspect of basketball. And it's one of those things that I love, but I just don't have a lot of experience in it. That's why I am like an intern with the basketball team to get that experience. I don't know the answer to that question. There is an answer to it. It's probably complicated and circumstantial, but do we
just lack an elite player to build the focal around?
Dylan Keel is an exceptional player. He could fit into probably half of the D1 rosters in the country.
Is it depth that we lack? Or is there just no obvious problem?
I mean, the transfer portal was brutal for us. Like half the team left.
So that could be a contributing factor.
Yeah, but the players that we got from the transfer portal are actually pretty decent. Like they're actually pretty good.
Right. And I'm not denying that at all. I'm
And-
just wondering.
And I know, I can tell you this, I know one of the things that was promised to those transfer players, because, you know, when you go to the transfer portal, you can make offers
absolutely.
to players, and that was win a conference championship. And that promise was fulfilled to be able to do something like that. So, of course, you got to be able to go out and get the players that you need, even if they're going to be with us for a year or two.
Right. But I just, as a fan,
Like,
I question what it might be. There's a lot of, you could even look at the NFL too, right? It's a team like
mhm.
post 1990s.
Injuries
Cowboys.
weren't that bad.
Like,
either.
ignore when the Cowboys were actually good. But it's the current version of the Cowboys. The team is good. The coach is solid. Mike McCarthy's
He's no slouch. He's a
no
good coach.
slouch. Like, he's good. The roster is solid. They've got a star, right?
And I don't think it's stubborn management either. Like, we have a good sports culture.
Right,
I would
so-
say there's room for improvement.
Right, and Dallas has a good sports culture too, so I think there's a lot of parallels there. So what is it that Dallas or NMU or any other team has where they can compete? Dallas has won a number of division titles. They've made the playoffs, but they haven't been to a conference championship since 1996. I don't know when the last time we made a tournament run in basketball is. The answer might be never, because I know
For enemy basketball?
yeah, it's been a while.
It
at
would
the very
probably be
least.
when we were in the NAIA. Because
Right.
we went to the semifinal in like the 60s.
Point being the 60s. That's telling.
The
Right.
women's basketball team went to the Final Four in Division II, I think, in the mid 90s.
Okay, so point is, we haven't been good in decades, right? Well, I shouldn't say good. Great.
Exceptional.
Great.
Yeah.
And we're at the point where, unlike all our other programs where we're just face in hands, like can't bear to watch,
Yeah.
like worst season of all time.
Not the football program.
Right, it's not the football program. We'll talk about the hockey program actually in a minute because I found out some
Yeah.
stuff about them today, actually right before the show. But you're in this weird middle ground of like you're
Like, we can win we can make an impact in the conference,
right,
but
but you can't.
as soon as we hit postseason,
Right.
it doesn't have the same effect.
You're
yeah.
going to hate this parallel, but I would say it's also equivalent to Michigan State most years. Not all years.
Mhm.
But you either go to the Final Four or you get knocked out in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Like, you are so...
I don't hate that comparison. That's a good comparison.
Like, they continuously, in my opinion at least, and I know I'm biased as a Michigan fan, but I would argue that Michigan State is typically underperforming come March.
Yeah.
With the coach that you have, Matt is good. He's no Tom Izzo, but he's good, right?
Yeah.
You got a comparison. State normally has one, like, star player, Cassius Winston type guy. Their
Mhm.
depth is solid, but not great. They play in a solid but not great conference. Actually, the Big Ten previously was great. The last couple of years, it's been solid but not great, right? So a lot of parallels there. And, you're a fan of both teams, so is there something that, is there a lesson we could take maybe?
Because I don't
that?
think it's a bad coach. Because I can tell you this for sure. You can have an educated guess if you even don't know. But I did have the opportunity to talk to, like, for example, the Green Bay head coach, Doug,
Right,
who
yeah.
was at the Michigan Tech, Northern Michigan semifinal Gilead game. I got a chance to talk to him, and it was brought up that he did make a call to Coach Matt to work for him. Now, Coach Matt said no.
Is this after he got let go? Or
Coach-
before? The Green Bay guy.
He's still coach of the Green Bay team.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
I thought they were pathetically bad this year.
They were,
Oh, and they did.
but they generally are. So,
Okay.
But he probably signed a multi-year contract.
I see. Okay.
That's
That's interesting, though.
but
The culture here
But
is
the
good.
fact that I heard that, I can logically conclude that Coach Matt has gotten calls from D1
Oh,
programs.
I'm sure he has. And I don't think he's the problem. I don't think the players are the problem. I don't think there's one obvious, oh my God, it's this
Yeah.
is the problem. But I'm just wondering, like, what does it take to get over that hump? Like, the Lions did something. Now, in their case, it was a culture change.
If I
but
truly knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be doing a radio show.
of course, neither
I'd
of us
be
would.
I'd be coaching a team right now.
But it's just an important question to ask. Like, is NMU going to be able to get over that hump? And I think the answer is yes, but I think it's going to take a lot longer than we're hoping it will.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that entails.
I will say our recruiting class is really good for Division II.
And that helps.
Mm-hmm.
A growing NIL helps.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball needs to get more attention on this campus from the powers that be, especially with football and hockey having bigger NIL collectives and unsuccessfully using them the last couple of years. So I think basketball deserves a lot more of that money, right? Because success should breed money.
Yep.
And they are pretty much the only team that gets funded by NIL money on this campus I can't guarantee they get funded by NIL money, but more than likely they have an NIL collective.
Yes.
The only one that is actually translating that money to wins
is the basketball team.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe you got to go out and get guys and shell out a little bit of money, which this university has done for hockey and football and other things. They're not afraid to do it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just, you're going to keep hitting this wall. Maybe they win another couple GLIAC titles. You hit it. And then one year it just clicks, right? It's not like it's a easy, simple fix. And we, unlike other teams, are having the luxury of talking about a good team having a problem and not being an exceptional team, rather than a bad team being stuck as a bad team, right? Yeah. So this is a good conversation to be having, but I think it's an important one to have. Because I know, amongst my friend groups and people that are not as passionate about sports as I am and as you are, they look at this and they go, we lost in the tournament in the first round again. Women's got blown out by when they played a good team, right?
Yeah, when will
we break
Grand
through?
Valley no longer have a death grip over the conference? Their women's basketball team has a death grip over the conference. Right? Why?
It's because there's a couple reasons, of course. Winning culture, yada, yada, yada. But Grand Valley has invested a heck of a lot of resources into athletics in general, in NIL and all those other things. They're at the point where if they wanted to, they have the money to jump to D1. They won't do it because it's better to be winners in D2. It's cheaper. It's better for students, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole plethora of reasons. But the fact that they have enough resources to move to Division I, they could do that.
Also Ferris State.
All that stuff, right.
I've told Ferris State players, hey, move to the FCS and leave us alone. And
the point is, the school could do that. Both could. They just have so many more, and they're downstate, they're bigger. They have so many more resources they can invest in these teams.
Yeah.
NMU on paper, no matter how good the players are, coaches, Tech is the same way, except for hockey. Hockey's a different animal. But for our D2 sports, NMU, Tech, Lake State will always kind of be, just because of the resource disparity. I'm putting underdogs in air quotes because with how good NMU has been, they're not technically underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
But really, NMU is kind of I would equate it to Michigan State in football, right now, where you're not going to out-recruit your rivals. You're not going to out-recruit Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Pick any team that you play against on a consistent basis. And so the way you win is development of talent and coaching, both of which we have. And there's a third piece, culture, which we have. So I think that's why it's only a matter of time before we break through that wall. Tech is not going to have another super season next year, presumably. So NMU could potentially be in a unique position to make that jump. Do we know? Of course not. Like you said, we wouldn't be sitting here if we did.
Yeah, if I knew all the answers, I'd be having a different job.
Right, but I think it's just important to cover that and also to remind people we're having this conversation because we're proud of this team, but we believe that this team can go even further, and we hope that they can. But speaking of going further, you've got some information about these swimming and alpine teams.
The dust hasn't completely settled yet because on their social media, and I think the event is still ongoing because for the Division II NCAA Swimming Nationals as well as Alpine Skiing Nationals, it's a multi-day event. So forgive me if it's already done and I just don't know. But by the end of this semester, when I finally formally compile my NMU sports tier list, I can at least say that the swimming team, the varsity swimming team, and the varsity alpine skiing team are in the neighborhood of S tier.
What?
Because not just because they qualified for nationals, but some of them have gotten medals, have gotten like second place, third place, like high up.
But like you said,
no one's gotten, at least as far as I know, a first place finish.
Right, and they're still settling the dust on, where people
so I'm going to have to...
That information will come out soon, we hope.
Analyze all that, but by first indication, I can definitively say, yeah, they're not like reaching for S tier, like they're like the foot is like in the door. They're not in the door. Like they're in the room. I just want to be 100% sure, because being in an S tier program for this year, like you have to make an impact in postseason, and it seems like they are. So yeah, it's just something I definitely want to bring up because it's one, it's blowing up on social media, but two, going into S tier, like that's important in my tier list for S, A, B, C, D, E.
Absolutely.
Or S, A, B, C, D, F. And we all know, and by the way, there's one varsity program I will not talk about because there isn't really much to talk about that is all alone in F tier. The hockey team's no longer F tier like it was last semester because they won a handful of games. So it got moved up. They got the varsity hockey team got bumped up to D tier. But the football program has a spring game coming up, I think in a few weeks, against Minnesota Duluth. I believe this is just an exhibition game.
Correct.
This will not count towards a win-loss record. It's just something for fun.
But it's important to go out there and show this team is going to take a turnaround.
This will be an indicator.
This is your prove it moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to harp on this because I'm just so checked out.
I am checked out as well, but I will be at the game, whether it be working or maybe taking some videos and photos.
We'll see. I may be there, I may not. But you almost gave me a perfect transition, then you moved on.
Give me hockey. What's going on? What's going on?
So, a lot of us who are passionate about hockey follow the NMU hockey page and also the NMU hockey fan page.
Yes.
And the NMU hockey fan page today posted about our November to March commits, which we got 6 players. And what's really interesting about college hockey this year is they've changed the rules so that you can go to college from the CHL, which is huge because CHL...
Remind me what the CHL is.
I want to say it's a Canadian Hockey League. You should double check that because I don't know much about what the CHL is. What I do know, though, is the CHL is where a lot of bona fide NHL prospects go to get developed. Like, it is absolutely... Sorry, the Champions Hockey League. It is absolutely huge.
European. It's a European hockey league.
You can check who some alums of the CHL are while I'm talking. But the CHL has been a huge developmental league for a lot of big NHL players. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a Canadian Hockey League, is it not? Yeah, Canadian Hockey League.
Never mind. Canadian Hockey League.
So there's been a number of bona fide NHL prospects that have gone through that system. And so now you have guys from there, including Connor Bedard, obviously being the biggest one there, and bona fide lottery pick this year, Michael Misa. But there's a number of players. But what's critical here is CHL players can now play for a college and maintain NHL eligibility.
Okay.
So by opening that up, you now have guys going from the CHL to college hockey, which was not an option before.
Because CHL is considered a semi-pro
correct
sport. Okay.
I don't know all the details of it, and I apologize for that. It gets very complicated when you get down.
This is just breaking news.
Well, not of that, but it gets complicated when you get down into the rules of minor league hockey.
Yeah.
And so the important part, though, is CHL players can now be on NCAA teams. And so NMU got 2 CHL forwards, Carter McAdams and Matthew Ward, and then 3 other forwards, Mikey Burchill, Peter Cesar, Matthew Ward, and then goalie Jackson Fuller.
Okay.
So a forward-heavy class, 5 forwards and a goalie. And again, this is the NMU hockey fan page. So these are correct. These people have officially posted on their page that they're committing. But NMU's own page has not come out and said this yet. They typically do that, I think.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Well, no, it's official.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
NMU Hockey just hasn't posted about it yet.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
they have on their bios, like
We just
NMU
gotta-
Hockey commit
Did we put a little disclaimer
from
out
the
there?
public ones that you can see.
Yeah.
And they'll likely post about it. I can't remember when they posted them last year. It was probably like April or something like that when they posted the official commits. But I was talking to the guy who runs the fan page who is extremely, extremely knowledgeable about hockey. And there's apparently 8 incoming freshmen, so there's 2 more freshmen that were not on the list that he gave me. And I asked him, I said, is this any better than our classes under Grant, our previous coach? And I said, obviously excluding the one that was number 1 until he left, right?
Yeah.
Then I also asked, like, okay, so how is it compared to the rest of the CHA, right? So, like, how good is our talent composite going to be to A, previous NMU teams, and B, the conference? So Grant was here about, what was it, like 6 years?
Yeah,
So
that sounds about
3
right.
to 4 classes were lower than this year's class. And this is Dave Shayek's first class. So that's a good start. And mid to high 30s is not bad. And it's 5th in the conference behind Mankato, Bowling Green, St. Thomas, and Bemidji. St. Thomas is leaving, so you get the 4th best class out of, I believe that leaves us with 8 CCHA teams with the departure of St. Thomas and Augustania joining in.
Okay.
Its goalie situation is going to be a little bit complicated because we don't have a starting player, which is unfortunate there. But he predicted, or she, I don't know who runs the page, predicted that we'd be 5th to 8th next year.
Yeah.
They would have been, 5th to 8th next year, and I think it would be realistic for us to, at the very least, be ahead of Ferris State next season. So
Okay.
I don't think we're like skyrocket to first place or anything like that, but I do think with a solid freshman class coming in, with another year of potential incoming transfers, with guys like Slipik and others that had an impact this year getting older, I think there is room for positive momentum. Okay, so now we get to what is certainly going to be the core of today.
Well, before we do that, for anyone who is just joining us, this is WUPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. This is the Jack and Dom radio show. But yeah, so what did you just do on my laptop here? I'm on ESPN, the Create a Bracket Challenge.
I've got a fun idea for us to do.
Okay,
we'll do it quickly.
would you like me to get my mouse, or are you okay with the trackpad?
I don't care. You can run back and do it. But here's the important part. I want to go through, and we'll do it as quickly as we can, because obviously it's a 1-hour show, and we're already halfway done. So
30 minutes is more than enough time.
we're going to go quick. And I've made, I think, 6 or 7 brackets on my own. There's some league my brother wants me in with up to 25, but I'm not making 25 brackets.
I heard we might have a guest next week.
Yeah, my brother might be on the show next week. We will see about that. But
We're filling out the paperwork, don't we?
yes, we shall see. What I want to do with you is, in tandem with the brackets that I've made, and I'm sure the brackets that you've already made or you will soon make,
Yeah.
I would like to make a show bracket, and unlike other shows where we make predictions, ESPN will save it for us. And so we can go back, I think, in each of the coming weeks. We can kind of see how we did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect us to win the, what was it, Buffett promised, $1 trillion? I don't know, $1 billion? I don't know. I don't expect that. But before you click anything, let's talk through each matchup, and we will come to a consensus on...
Well, I can definitely start by saying I don't think a 16 seed's going to beat a 1 seed this year.
We'll start with the obvious ones, but then we get to the first competitive matchup, Louisville against Creighton.
Okay.
I think Louisville is incredibly underseeded, so I'm going to say Louisville with a lot of confidence.
Okay.
I know you have your biases, but next up is Michigan, UC San Diego. UC San Diego has never made a tournament before, despite being a really good team, and they don't have a single player taller than 6'7". I don't see them competing against Michigan's 2 7-foot giants.
Okay.
Yale, Texas A&M. I see you've picked Yale. I concur with that pick. Yale seems to be a real menace come tournament time. They have won the Ivy League again this year, and Texas A&M is coming out of a crowded SEC conference where I don't know how much I can trust them, so I concur with the Yale pick.
Yeah, and for me personally, like, I've noticed a lot of Ivy League schools, at least they
do
win
well
the
in the
first
tournament,
game.
yeah.
They win the first game more often than not, so that's why I'm putting Yale
It also
we'll win the
benefits
first
Michigan
game.
if Yale wins, so I really do hope that plays out. Okay. UNC, one of the very interesting tournament.
So you think UNC will be San Diego State?
No. I'm just saying, like, it's very interesting to me that they even got into the tournament.
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of controversy that
This is very
West
controversial.
Virginia was left out. They're going to be playing San Diego State, which, by the way, I think San Diego State is going to win that, but it's the first 4 games, so not something we worry about here. Against Ole Miss, again, I don't know about the SEC. We can talk about this one because it's a tough one to pick, but I think whoever comes out of that first 4 game is going to end up winning. If you pick Ole Miss, though, I got no qualms. All right, we pick SDSU at UNC. And for anyone that is listening to us, you can pull up your own ESPN bracket or the official bracket anywhere and kind of follow along with us.
Of course.
We
If you so
just
choose.
thought it would be a fun activity to give you our kind of bracket picks on air, kind of like they do on 97.1 and some of the other radio channels. Okay,
Iowa State and how do you pronounce that?
Lipscomb, I think.
Is it Lipscomb?
I'm not quite
or
sure.
Lipscomb.
What I do know is they are one of the better non-Power 6 teams. Power 5, I guess now, because the Pac-12 is a shattered
Imploded.
remnant of what it was. We'll be back, though,
Yeah,
a
we'll
couple
be
of
back.
years with some new teams. But that being said, Iowa State is an incredibly good team, one of the best in the Big 12, and I do not foresee that being an upset. Okay. Now we get to the part of the bracket where Dom gets really interested because it's potential future Michigan State matchups. You can go ahead and pencil in Michigan State over 15 seed Bryant. Despite the fact that Michigan State has had trouble previously with 15 seeds, I don't see it happening this
I
year.
remember that. I remember.
That was a really funny moment, actually.
What was it? Denzel Valentine's senior year.
Yeah, I don't remember who you played, though.
I don't remember either.
I'll let you
But
think on it if it comes to you.
They lost the next game
Okay.
anyway.
In my opinion, this is one of the most intriguing games in the tournament, and I think
Marquette
whoever
versus New Mexico.
yes, and I think whoever wins this game is going to give State some major trouble in the second round. State's a good team, but these are 2 of the better underseeded teams, in my opinion.
Okay.
And you'll be surprised, I am actually going to pick New Mexico. Despite the fact that Marquette is one of the best coaches in America and is in a power conference, I don't foresee New Mexico losing that game. They have been on fire. Okay, we safely can pick Florida, the 1 seed. I'm going to pick UConn over Oklahoma. UConn is a die-hard, battle-tested tournament team. I don't think I'll get any resistance there from you.
Okay.
Okay, now we get into ones where I think upset territory has the potential.
Okay.
Memphis, Colorado State is a real tough one to predict. I'm curious your thoughts on that one. I don't know how much you know about some of the those 2 teams. Memphis, though, was, in my opinion, the best non-Power 5 team in basketball this year. Colorado State, also very good. I think it's safe to say that Memphis is going to win this, but I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if this was an upset. You're going to pick Colorado State. All right. Totally understandable. We will move on. Maryland Grand Canyon.
Who?
Grand Canyon.
Who? I never heard of that school before. No, I think I have. I think
They were in last year's tournament, I
They
believe.
think they make don't they make a lot of ads? Grand
Yes.
Canyon University.
Yes.
They're like a private Christian school or something.
I think so.
I didn't know their division.
This is going to be interesting because I actually think this is going to end up being a 12 against 13 matchup.
Okay.
I think Maryland is incredibly good, but I still think that you got to pick some upsets, and I think that is one that I could see.
Okay.
Okay, 6-11 Missouri Drake. Drake, always a tough tournament team, always a pick as an upset. Missouri, one of the underseeded SEC teams. It's really a toss-up here. My pick would be
Okay.
Missouri, but it's really a toss-up.
Okay.
All right, Dom concurs. Texas
I'm
Tech.
just putting what you.
Well, you got to give your input too.
a little bit.
Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington. I think Texas Tech, they have been superb this year. Okay, now we get into the bracket where you have, I believe it's, I can't remember if Tom Izzo has more, but at the very least, it's 3 out of the 4 winningest coaches in college basketball. I actually
It's
think
clo- I
it
think
is
it's
the
close.
3 winningest. I think they are ahead of Izzo. Because you have Bill Self at Kansas, you have John Calipari, formerly Kentucky, now Arkansas, and you have Rick Pitino at St. John's. So, at the very least, 3 of the winningest 4 coaches in the country. All playing in the same part of the bracket. I think St. John's over Omaha is not particularly controversial pick, a 2 over the 15 seed. Arkansas, Kansas, though, is a toss-up. Do you pick the team that's been terrible all year, but that typically does well in the tournament? Or do you pick the coach that's had a pretty good year, but never wins in the tournament? It's a real
First
toss-up
one.
there.
That would be Kansas?
Yes. So, Dom picks Kansas. I'll let him do that one because I think it's a toss-up. Okay. To the top of the bracket we go to Duke. Is that the North Division?
Yes.
Scroll up. I can't see.
East.
East. Okay. So, Duke winning, obviously, against the 16 seed. Baylor, Mississippi State is another toss-up. So, Dom, I'll leave this up to you. I lean Baylor. Okay, Dom concurs. Oregon Liberty, another one that I think is ripe for the potential of an upset. I pick Liberty. I'm curious your thoughts on that one. Dom picks Oregon. All right. I think
I don't like Liberty.
that's fair. Personal biases in our bracket, hashtag haha. Okay. I then foresee Arizona knocking off Akron. Again, I think it's going to be closer than most people think.
I mean, I was born in Canton, so no, just kidding.
Okay, BYU VCU, one of the more intriguing games I think in this tournament.
Are the Mormons gonna win a game?
Well, I do think the Mormons are going to win a game.
I was like, no, the evangelical Christians, aka Liberty, won't, but will the Mormons?
I think they will.
Okay.
Dom lets his personal biases into this bracket.
I guess
Other
so.
than with the Wolverines, I don't. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, Wisconsin, Montana. Montana is a really good group of 5 team, one of the best ones in post upfits on a consistent basis. I
Okay.
just don't see him beat Wisconsin.
Okay.
Okay, St. Mary's Vanderbilt is another toss-up, so Dom, I will leave this one to you. He picks Vandy, and I think Alabama over Robert Morris, the 215 is a
Is it a
safe
nice
pick.
SEC matchup?
Okay, we jump back to let's go back to the top left.
Well, we still haven't done the Midwest
Oh,
yet.
I lied. We skipped the Midwest. Okay. Gonzaga, Georgia. It's the Bulldogs
Well,
versus
first,
the Bulldogs.
Houston's beat.
Yeah, okay. Houston beats the 16 seed. We're just implying that
All right.
at this point. Bulldogs versus the Bulldogs. Dom picks the Bulldogs. of
Gonzaga.
Okay.
Which will join the Pac-12 next year.
We're going to get to an interesting upset in a minute. But while we're here, McNeese, in my opinion, the best non-Power 5 team, even better than Drake. I still pick Clemson, though, because Clemson, ACC champions, underseeded, very strong team.
Okay.
Below that, you have Purdue, High Point. I know Dom just clicked Purdue, but I actually pick High Point. Dom, you're more than welcome to put Purdue in. It's the safe pick, but I have High Point.
Okay.
Dom is going to concur with me. Okay, Illinois versus the winner of the first 4 game between Texas and Xavier. I'm curious your thoughts on that one, but I have Illinois.
I'll pick Illinois as well.
Kentucky, Troy, I've got Kentucky. UCLA, Utah State, I've actually got Utah State in that one, the 7-10. And I've got 2 seed Tennessee beating Wofford, the 15. I see no 15-2 or 16-1 upsets. Okay, back to the top of the bracket in the South region, where both Michigan and Michigan State are located this year, which, by the way, Michigan snubbed. We are a 5 seed. But one of the matchups that I think people are really underrating, you've got the top seed in the entire country, Auburn, against a red-hot Louisville team that won the ACC and has no business being in. Or, sorry, runner-ups
I
in the
thought Clemson
ACC.
won the ACC.
Yeah,
The runner-up. Okay.
regular season champions, I think it was, in the ACC. So
Okay.
no business being an 8 seed. And this we're going to disagree on, but I'll let you have the final say. My pick is going to be Louisville, but Auburn is the safe pick here. So really a toss-up for you. But I
You're
think
telling me that
Louisville's gonna
Louisville is more red hot than Auburn.
if you click on the preview, well, they're not necessarily red hot, but they're going to have some extra fuel after being given an 8 seed. They've had some good wins over.
I thought Louisville lost their last 3 games.
No, those are just three quality
no.
opponents. So they
Oh,
beat
they're quality
they
opponents.
beat Clemson,
Notable opponents,
some other
okay.
teams. But I think Louisville pulls off the upset. I know it's against the analytics. I know it's against common sense, but I pick Louisville.
Okay.
All right, Dom concurs. Michigan over Yale. Yes, Yale's a good team. Yes, Yale will put up. Stop it. Yale will put up a fight.
Yes.
But I think you and I both know if Michigan will win that game, Michigan's going to have an additional amount of fuel for 2 reasons. One, as you know, we won the Big Ten title game.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty huge underdogs, by the way. I saw Michigan State fans online saying they would do all kinds of crazy things that I won't say on air if Michigan happened to pull the shocking, and Michigan did. So, haha to all those state
And I will
fans.
say the only notable teams that Yale has beat are in their conference.
Correct.
They were close against Minnesota. They did fight against Purdue.
They're a good
but
team.
they lost to them.
You can't sleep on them. But I just don't think, again, you're going to have the same problem.
But they're
with
not
size.
as battle tested as Michigan.
Right, they're not as battle tested as Michigan, and you also have the fact that Michigan has an ex-Yale player, so they kind of understand a little bit of what's going on there. And I think the 2 7-footers.
I guess you really wanted that college athletic scholarship.
But I think though one of the things is like Michigan's 2 7-footers are going to cause problems to almost any team.
Similar to how when we played against Michigan State. Remember when Northern played Michigan State in October?
Yes,
I know
yes.
that was so
I thought you were talking
long
about
ago.
Michigan State, and I was like, why are you talking about Michigan as if it's your team? But anyway, neither here nor there. I think Iowa State beats whoever wins the first 4. I think it's a pretty safe pick. This one, I know you're going to pick State, and I respect you picking State. We can stick with State because it's the favorite. I do think New Mexico is going to put up a significant fight, though.
I think so too.
But I think in my
it'll be close.
I think in my official bracket, I did pick State, though. I can't remember offhand. Okay, so Iowa State, Michigan State is our pick for the Sweet 16 there. Okay, Florida, UConn. Despite the fact that UConn is a tournament-driven team, and I believe the first time they won the title, they were like a 5 seed or a 6 seed. They were not a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I still think Florida's the best team in the country, and I think Florida's going to win that.
Okay.
Okay, Colorado State, Grand Canyon. I think Colorado State ends Grand Canyon's run. Don't think there's much opposition there. Missouri, Texas Tech is another tough one. Do you take the team that was one of the top of their conference, or do you take the one that was in a really tough conference and had to play a lot of tough teams?
I'm going to pick Texas Tech.
I'm actually going to say Missouri, but we can stick with Texas Tech.
Okay.
I think St. John's will beat Kansas. St. John's is, in my opinion, the most underrated team in the country, despite them being a 2 seed. They could very well make a national championship run. Okay, we jump back to, what is that, the East?
Yes.
Okay, Duke Baylor, I have Duke. I don't think there's much surprise there.
Do you think? I think it'll be a fight, but Duke, I think, will pull it off.
I don't think so. If Cooper Flag plays, I don't think it's close. Okay, Oregon, Arizona. 2 teams that I think are on upset alert, but Dom decided to pick both upper seeds, so I got to go Arizona. Okay.
Arizona it is.
Alabama, Vandy. I believe Alabama beat them head-to-head. You can double-check that if you click the preview. But if that's the case, then I think it's safe to pick, yes, they did. Alabama won. Okay, so I'm going to pick Alabama there then in the SEC matchup. And I think, despite the fact that my roommate is a Wisconsin fan and will be very disappointed by this result, Wisconsin had to play 4 games in 4 days in the Big Ten tournament and their final regular season game. And now we'll have to play again on Saturday with just, what would that be? Not a lot of
But
rest.
will they beat the Mormons?
The point is, they're not going to get a lot of rest. And I see the Mormons, as you call them, the BYU Cougars, winning that out. Okay. We jump down to the West. I think, or sorry, not the West.
Midwest.
The Midwest.
Sure. I
You're
think.
going to call me crazy, but I think another 1 seed falls in the round of 32.
Okay.
Just kidding. I changed my mind. I'm picking Houston. Only because I think the statistical odds of 2 number 1 seeds getting knocked out in the second round, that I don't think has ever happened before. So I think that's a really dangerous pick to make, despite the fact that I think Houston is very much on upset alert.
Okay. I think that's a fair assessment.
So just for statistical probability, we're going to take Houston there. I think Clemson over High Point shouldn't be any surprise there. High Point obviously pulling that upset. Illinois, Kentucky, I actually think Illinois is going to win that game, despite the fact that I don't think either of those teams are that good.
Okay.
Utah State, Tennessee, I think Tennessee wins that one. Actually, wait, go back to Utah State for a minute. How good of a team are they? Do we
Beat Iowa, St.
do we
Mary,
pick
San
a
Diego,
good upset? Do
San
we pick a
Diego.
big upset? Do we say a double-digit seed to the Sweet 16?
No.
I think we do.
Tennessee is more battle hardened. They play
Tennessee won the
good schools.
I actually think it will be Utah State.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is, again, you always have that 1 double-digit seed. You know, I changed my mind. Go back to Tennessee. I guess we're picking a lot of
Oh, my
favorites.
goodness.
Thanks to my indecisiveness. Okay, back to the top of the bracket and the South Division. I do think Michigan will beat Louisville. And,
How close do you think this game could
very
be?
close. I think it goes down to the buzzer. But
Okay.
Michigan is the best team in the country, and I'm not saying that because I love Michigan. We are the best team in the country at winning close games. Just look at the Wisconsin game, the Maryland game. Insert any close game that we've had. We've won pretty much all of them. So you're picking Iowa State over MSU as an MSU fan. Wow. That's a tough one.
Well, I don't know, because like having two very familiar teams play so late in the tournament is super rare.
That is true, and I like the
know.
Iowa State pick because Iowa State has been a hot team. They are a really good team. You look at their opponents. Lost to Auburn, who's the top overall seed. Lost to Kansas, doesn't look good. Losses to Arizona and Houston, who are both top 4 seeds.
They beat Kansas, Baylor, and Marquette.
Right. So they beat some good teams. State beat Michigan and Illinois and UNC, but struggled against a bad Kansas team and lost to the Badgers. So I think Iowa State is fair, and I think you as an MSU fan would be fairly satisfied with the Sweet 16 run. Maybe not.
Relatively speaking, sure. I mean, a final would be awesome.
Well, of course. Okay, Florida over Colorado State, no questions
Yeah,
there.
Colorado State's going to
Florida to the Elite Eight, and I think that's a tough one. Texas Tech St. John's is a toss-up, but I think if you go one Big 12 team, you got to pick St. John's. Okay. Duke, Arizona. I think Duke continues their run.
Okay.
And I'm going to continue riding the Mormons.
All right, they beat Alabama.
I think they're going to be a sleeper team. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Do you pick Houston, or do you pick a sneaky good Clemson team that won the ACC?
I'll pick Houston. I think Clemson's run is over at this point.
It's so tough because you'd have three number one seeds in the Elite Eight.
I think Clemson will hit a wall.
I think you're right. Okay. Illinois, Tennessee, I think is a toss-up, but I think it's going to end up being Tennessee.
Okay.
Okay. Michigan, Iowa State is a really tough one. And
Yes, it is.
You know my biases come in here. But I think if Iowa State has to beat a tough Michigan State team, am I crazy for saying Michigan to the Final Four?
Yes.
I'm crazy? Okay, we can pick Iowa State. I have no qualms with that. Heck, if we
Duke
go...
BYU.
Just a side note before we do Duke BYU. If Michigan goes from last place in the conference to the Elite Eight in a close game against a good Iowa State team,
That's a good.
I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
Big Ten tournament title in Elite Eight in year one.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I hope this bracket is right.
Your coach better get a contract extension.
He
if
already did,
continues
actually.
it. Okay. Awesome.
Duke BYU, I think. This is interesting because it depends on the Cooper Flagg injury. I'm going to jump the gun and assume Cooper Flagg is good to go. So I'm going to say Duke.
I think the Mormons
Their run's got to end, yes. Okay.
Florida and St. John's.
I think it's got to be Florida.
Okay.
Best team in the country.
Houston and Tennessee. I think Tennessee will pull off. Yeah.
It's tough because on the one hand, I think Tennessee could easily lose in the round of 32. But on the other hand, Houston is predicted to win the tournament or do well every year, and they never seem to. So I'm with you. I'd pick the Volunteers, fresh off their conference title. Okay. This is going to be interesting, though. You're going to have two SEC teams in the Final Four. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to take Florida.
The Ride.
And then Duke, Tennessee is a tough one. What does the preview have to say about that one? Duke has some bad losses, but they only have 3 of them. What about Tennessee? Tennessee lost to Florida, Auburn, Florida. So really, I'm actually going to pick Tennessee here.
Okay.
To set up, this is, I'm sure, very unlikely, but I'm sure it's happened before. Set up an all-SEC final. Now the question is, do you pick the tournament favorite? I think so. I think Florida's a safe pick, and I'm going to say, 140 points in the championship. That part is unimportant. But Dom and I have Florida as champions. We have Florida, Iowa State, Tennessee, and Duke in the Final Four. So that means we have no one lower than a 3 seed going to the Final Four. So I guess Dom and I just hate upsets. I don't think we had a single double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. So we are very much going against conventional statistics, conventional odds in that regard. But we have Michigan State going to the Sweet 16, which I was actually going to pick them to win that game. I was very surprised that Dom didn't. And then we
I
have...
think the run will end.
Which is fair. And then you've got Michigan going to the Elite Eight and falling to Iowa State.
I have to go into my spam folder to get the code.
Overall, I think we
in.
had the Big Ten having a solid tournament, but also quite a few upsets in the early rounds. We had SEC being quite dominant. St. John's, I think, is our, not a surprise team because they're a 2 seed, but they went pretty far. I think really the only upset that you and I really had was Auburn out of the tournament early against Louisville. I think other than that, the lowest seeded team we had in the Elite Eight was Michigan. So, not exactly a plethora of upsets. But I think, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, I've read Jerry Palm and other bracketologists talk about this, and they get the bracket wrong every year. But I do think they're right in that this year is an incredibly top-heavy year. There are, within the top 3 seeds, I think any one of those 12 teams could win a title. So I certainly think it's going to play out in an interesting way. And we will, of course, with the games starting up this weekend, if you wouldn't mind, will you pull up when Michigan and Michigan State play, just so we can let our viewers know in case they're interested.
For basketball?
Yes. When their first round games are. Of course, only watch them if you are so inclined.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to present to you when those games are.
Michigan State's playing on the 21st at 10 p.m.
Oh, I think, isn't Michigan also playing the 21st? Yeah.
No, Michigan is playing on the 20th at 10 p.m.
Okay, so Michigan and Michigan State playing at 10 p.m.
Both
Thursday
on TBS.
and Friday on TBS. Both are favored to win their first round games. So if you so choose, you do have the opportunity to watch those games. Dom and I will certainly be tuning into those.
Of course.
As I will throughout the entire tournament. Can you double check for me when the first 4 starts? The official start of the tournament, the first 4. You won't be able to see it on that bracket, I don't think. Oh, never mind.
March 18th and
So
March 19th.
tournament play starts tomorrow. Isn't
Yes.
that crazy? We got SDSU UNC at 9 and Alabama State St. Francis
Pennsylvania,
at 6:40, and then the following day we have American Mount St. Mary's and Texas Xavier. Once again, you can bet I will be tuning into those 11 seed matchups, especially UNC, where they proved that their controversial pick was worthwhile. So once again, if you are so inclined, you can tune into those games. They will be on national TV this coming week. I think we're going to save our Mavericks segment for the future.
Well, let's just say they're not feeling too good right now.
One thing I want
But I do want to ask you, are the LA Lakers,
Nope.
they're
No.
not finals
No.
bound?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
Stop it. By the way, you were talking about...
I'm on that bandwagon.
I can see that.
Yeah.
You were talking about Dusty May, Michigan's coach's contract. Just got a new contract through April 2029. Pays him $3.6 million this year, including increases of $100K each year, and he got a bonus in his salary for winning the Big Ten title in his first year. Buyout is $5 million this year, dropped by $1 million each sequential year. And then one thing I want to close with, because as you know, I like rubbing things in your face. You like rubbing things in my face. It's a friendly
Something we do
rivalry.
every once in a while.
Right. Izzo came out this week and said that this Big Ten title, the tournament title, was really special to him and one he really wanted to get and one that he prioritized even more than the regular season title. So despite the fact that the committee, the fact that it's cool that Michigan got it instead. But apparently, according to the committee and making us a 5 seed, apparently it doesn't matter. I think there has to be a conversation within the Big Ten of why do you play the final game an hour before Selection Sunday? Like that just doesn't make sense. So, I think there has to be some conversation about that being moved around because Michigan was screwed over by seeding. Teams like Purdue that performed poorly in the tournament, I think, got a very generous seed. Hence why I think they're going to lose in the first round potentially. But just something to think about. So we're going to close there. It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks of March Madness. You may or may not hear my brother on the show on Monday.
We'll see.
To give
What's
his
his name?
input. His name's Alex.
I've never met him before.
Yeah, you get to meet him. Hopefully, if he's here, he'll give some input. I'm sure on the tournament. We'll talk everything March Madness, and you'll finally be outnumbered by Michigan fans 2-1.
Oh,
So with that being
that's a
said,
Tuesday in some people's books.
With that being said, that's all for me, Dom.
Well, that's all for me as well. Hope that all you guys have a nice rest of your week. And just to remind everyone, the opinions said in the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or university. And if you so choose, you're able to get the recording of the show on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube.
Woo!
And on YouTube. Apparently, YouTube now has a feature where if you have a podcast, you just put in that RSS link or whatever, and it just like automatically does it. So I don't have to do any input on my end. As soon as I upload the MP3 file to our podcast hosting service, it like automatically goes to YouTube, or YouTube fetches that and puts it on there. So you can also find us on YouTube. We are also on social media. So if you so choose, you can currently find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just look up the Jack and Dom Radio Show. This is WUPX 91.5 FM HUM Marquette. We will see you guys next week.